welcome. I want to say welcome to the 90-day Recovery Life Now challenge. This is a big deal, and the fact that you're here, the fact that you are wanting to dive into this challenge, I want to say welcome. I'm glad you're here. That's powerful, and I want to affirm your decision. The facts that you're watching this means you're serious about change, and that alone sets you apart. And a lot of guys aren't going to show up, aren't going to do what it takes to sign in, send their email, whatever it is, to dive into the videos, to dive into the groups. So kudos to you. Good job. Way to go. You know, this journey, this next 90 days, this whole recovery life journey is not about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about being honest and letting God and your community do the work that we can't do. You know, ultimately, we can do what we can do by showing up, by doing the work, answering the questions, diving into the workbooks, whatever it is that we're being called to do or requested to do. And as we do that, sometimes it's challenging. It stinks. It's not fun, but I think you're going to really find that it is powerful and it is transformative. And that's what I love about it. I love this whole process. To me, it's a process of discipleship. It's a process of life change that God leads us on. And, you know, the message to me has been, you know, from God is like, John, I love you so much. I don't want you to stay where you are. And therefore, I'm going to let your addiction get out of hand so that you come to me and begin to work on it. And maybe that's something that you have kind of noticed God speaking in your life too. So, like I said, it's not about perfection. It's about showing up. So you may feel stuck, but freedom is possible. And if you walk this out, I guarantee you're going to have some transformation. You know, if you jump out 2 or 3 weeks in, yeah, maybe not, but dive in. I think you're gonna see some powerful things come to pass as we walk through this together. I want to just address one little piece about addiction. You know, I love addiction, and that sounds weird, right? Sounds weird to say, yeah, man, I love. Thank God for my addiction, right? But the reality is that our addiction has done something powerful in our lives. It was a way that we survived. It was a way that we coped. It was a way that we got through some very tough situations in our lives. Most of us got into our addiction as kids, got into our addiction as young teens. Maybe there's a few of us that jumped in as adults, but for the most part, these maladaptive practices that we have chosen, whether you call it sin, whether you call it addiction, whatever you want, label you want to put on it, that piece was a solution. And so I want us to see it in light of it being a solution. And today, one of my invitations to you is, what would it be like for you to look at your addiction and tell it thank you? Maybe even write it a little thank you note, thank you letter, recognizing that it has been with you through some really tough things, that when you needed a hug, when you needed comfort, when you needed care, when you needed companionship, your addiction has been there for you. And to look at it and say, wow, it was a really cool solution for my life. And now it's become a problem. I get that. None of us would be here on this video series if our addiction wasn't causing us major problems in our lives. A lot of pain for ourselves, a lot of pain for our loved ones, lost jobs, lost relationships, all of that comes as a package with our addiction, right? But seeing it as a solution and not just a problem is a big piece, and is a mindset shift for us as we begin this journey. So, what would it look like to be grateful for your addiction? So maybe grab a sheet of paper and just write that out for yourself. Like, just make a note to write a thank you letter to your addiction. Yes, the relief was temporary and the cost was long-term, but it worked for a moment and got us through. So, I also want to touch just a little bit today, and we can dive more into this at some point. In a minute, I'm going to dive into more of the foundation of the next 12 weeks. But one piece that I think is significant is the shame cycle. And some of you may be familiar with the shame cycle. But the cycle is like just a circle, right? It's a circle, and it shows us kind of our process, right? We act out, we look at porn, we masturbate, we smoke the thing, we drink the drink, whatever it is, right? And we get angry, we yell at somebody, give them a piece of our mind. We act out, and after that we feel shame, right? And because we feel shame, we make a promise. I'm never going to do that again. Never, ever, ever, right? And then from the promise, stress eventually begins to build. And then stress builds to a certain point, and what do? We act out, right? And so I want us to think about that cycle for just a second. What does that cycle look like for you? How long does it take you to go through that? For some people, it might be a day. Some people might go through the cycle multiple times a day. We might go through the cycle once in a decade, right? But what does that cycle look like for you? And I also want us to think through and pay attention to what are the things that I tell myself as I'm going through each stage of that cycle. So maybe grab a piece of paper, draw it out really quick. What is it that I tell myself when I first act out? Maybe what do I tell myself before I act out? It's not that big a deal. Just one's okay. Nobody's paying attention, right? I've had a tough day at work. I deserve it. And then we act out, and then what do we tell ourselves in the shame place? We tell ourselves, I'm just a piece of crap, never going to get over this. This is so stupid. I am so stupid, right? Like we go through that part. And then we make that promise. And what do we tell ourselves in the midst of that? Man, I'm going to make this promise, but I don't know if I got this. And or I'm going to make it this time because, I'm going to do it because I don't know, what are the things that you say in there, right? And then the third, the top of the cycle, how do we do in the ascent of the stress? What do we tell ourselves? What is it that we eventually give ourselves permission to act out? But what is also the thing that we tell ourselves? Man, I'm doing good. Man, I don't need to go to group no more. Man, I am sailing smooth. I am feeling strong. I don't need therapy no more. I'm good, right? What is it that we get to at that space that then sets us up for the fall back into the shame cycle? So jot some things down, bring it to group. I'd love to hear what you think about that. If you're coming into therapy, I'd love to hear that too in a session together. Anything that I bring up here, sharing this, bring it to group, bring it to therapy. Let's talk about it, because those are big pieces of our recovery journey. We are here to break that cycle, and we're here to address those real needs. Needs of connection, needs of faith and healing, but a lot of connection, and replacing those false solutions with real solutions that are lasting, that are good, because ultimately our needs and our drives drive us towards people. And sometimes we choose our addiction instead of people, and that messes things up. But that's kind of what do we need to do to break that cycle? And so we can walk out and go, okay, what do I need to tell myself in this space or in this space so that I can leave the hamster wheel and go off into another direction, a direction of health. So, what is this challenge about? Today, I kind of want to set that foundation. And the challenge is really a few things about it. Is it's one day at a time. You know, you don't have to stay sober for 90 days. You have to stay sober for today. And so that's the encouragement, is don't look way down the road. Don't worry about tomorrow so much. Worry about today. Think about today. Do your practices. Do the things that make you strong, healthy, and becoming the man that you want to be. Living your values today. That's it. Just today. And the other piece of it is progress over perfection. If you slip up, if you have a relapse, if you have a rough day, don't let that set you into that shame cycle. Jump off. Remember, you are a child of God. You are loved. You are beloved beyond your performance. And I think a lot of us really struggle with that reality. But it is a reality that God cares about us in our mess so much. And, and it's part of what draws him to us is our mess. It's why Jesus came, was to help us overcome, to come out of this mess, to heal the mess, right? And so, and I think about, my kids, my son, my daughter, when they were young, I didn't love them because they did everything right. No, they cried and pooped and made messes everywhere they went, but man, I loved them and I still do. And I think about that as God sees the messes that we've made, but it doesn't at all touch or change the way that he loves us. So take that to heart, and receive that. I want us to, let that soak in a little bit, that God's love for you is far beyond your performance or your ability to be perfect or to even get this 90-day challenge right. Because it's not about getting it right. It's about making progress and growing. And you will have challenges, but the win is getting back up. This is part of the struggle. It's part of the stumble is part of the struggle. And I don't think God is as interested in our perfection as he is in our growth. He's making us stronger. He's making us wiser. He's helping us to become the men that he's created us to be. And so this challenge is structured. We try to take you step by step. And the first thing we're going to hit is sobriety. Then we're going to move into healing and purpose. This is community focused. I think about community like the cross. There's the upper beam, our connection with God, right? The upper part. And then there's the cross beam. And the cross beam is our connection with other men, with people in our community, but especially in specific with other men. And oftentimes we struggle with our connection with men. We struggle. How do we connect with them? How do we get deeper than sports and weather? I don't even want to, some guys say, right? I don't want to go deep with other guys. I hate it. And I get that. I totally get that. And I have certainly felt that. But I want to mention that it is men that turns boys into men. Women cannot turn boys into men. And we need each other as men to hold each other accountable, to provide the strength of a brotherhood, to strengthen our sobriety, but also to help us to heal and to know who we are. And so for some of us, this might be the first time that we enter into this group of men and begin to share some of these deeper things, but it is powerful. And so realize you're not doing this alone. There is a clear path. This challenge is structured to take us step by step, first to sobriety, then to healing, then to purpose. And isolation is where addiction grows and wins. And so it's in community that we gain power over it. And so, it's in community that recovery grows. Let me lay out the roadmap for you this next 12 weeks. Let me paint the picture for you. I want to give you hope. There is a plan. There is some structure. So month 1, we're going to focus on sobriety and recovery tools. Today, I'm going to dive into a couple recovery tools for us. And we are going to lay the foundation with the 5 practices. And weeks 2 and 3, we're deep dive into some of these practices, build them into our daily lives, kind of answer maybe some questions that come up and that kind of a thing. Week 4, we're going to talk about the 3 Ds and how to rebuild trust and gain, begin to rebuild things with our spouse, if that's something that you are wanting to do. And then month 2, we're kind of going to move beyond the nuts and bolts of gaining sobriety. We're going to move into like the brain work and the trauma healing and what happens in our brain when we're living in our addiction. What happens in our brain in recovery? What are some of the things that need healed? Why did we become why did I choose my addiction in the first place? And we're going to do some deep dives, both individually with 1 or 2 people in the groups, but we're also as kind of an example for everybody. Hopefully we'll maybe get an opportunity to go into each person's story to an extent. We might use some different tools, but the whole purpose is that each of us is going to have some revelation into our own story, and get down into it. And here's kind of my little 𝗪𝗲𝗰𝗪𝗧 here. This is my suitcase, and I want you to notice each of us has a suitcase in life, and the suitcase of our life is often, I think of it as a sampling of all the things that were ever on our floor as a teenager. So if you think back to your life and as a teenager, if everything that ever touched your floor was thrown into a suitcase, how smelly would that be? And so I'm thinking Big Macs, I'm thinking a cup of milk, I'm thinking some dirty underwear, some dirty socks, probably all have been thrown into each one of our suitcases, right? And when life happens and people cut us off and things begin to happen, our suitcase begins to shake, and there's this crazy smell that comes from our suitcase. And really it's our addiction coming out. It might come out in anger, it might come out in our addiction. But by unpacking our suitcase and opening it up a little bit and beginning to get inside of some of those things and see what's in there, what is really at the bottom of my addiction. And I think we're going to find that each of us chose our addiction for different reasons, but for reasons that were powerful for us in particular, and for you in particular, for me in particular, for each of us. And so by unpacking that, we can wash the clothes. We can throw away the nasty Big Mac that's been in there for 10 years. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, right? We can dump out the cup of stinky milk. And so we can do that, and that's huge. That's powerful. And so by doing that, we heal our brain, we dismantle and disarm our triggers, and we rewire our brain for freedom. And so I love that. That's what we're going to be doing in those the weeks like 6, 7, 8, and then towards the end, the last several weeks, we're going to be diving into our purpose. And I love this aspect of it because I think oftentimes we think of our addiction as really setting us back, as stealing from us. And it certainly does that. Absolutely, 100%, no argument there. But if we recognize that we are losing ground, we're being pulled back. But when we engage our past, and when we begin to surrender our addiction and our control, we find out that we've not just been pulled back, but we're actually in a slingshot getting ready to be launched forward into our purpose. And so, allow yourself to be pulled back and get launched into your purpose. So we are going to talk about discovering your purpose, finding the clarity of your calling, restoring your relationships, and what does it mean to be a man of integrity. And we're going to really help make the plan for the following 90 days, 6 months, 6 years, whatever it is, that what is the purpose and the direction of, and how do I live a life of meaning that strengthens other people and isn't just an escape. It's not something I have to escape from. It's actually something I want to live. It's something I want to do with my life. And so, because recovery isn't just about stopping bad habits, it's about building a life that's worth living. And so today I am going to focus a few minutes on the 5 practices or the 5 P's of recovery. And what are these things? These 5 practices help to build the foundation in our life to be a man of integrity and to be connected and to be solid. And they really help us to bring maturity to our lives. And so I'm going to throw these out there reasonably quickly here, but the first one is prayer in the morning. Connecting with God is a big part of recovery. And whether you're a Christian, Christ follower, or not, I'm not super worried about that. If you're not super, whatever. But I do think having a higher power that you connect with every day is important. And of course, I'm a Christ follower. I'm going to encourage you, jump on with Jesus, right? But if that's not your choice, I'm not faulting you for that. Have a higher power that you look to and ask for his help, or, and say, God, help me to be sober. If you don't know how to pray, if it's something that's odd for you, that's okay. Just speak to God like he's in the room. God, I need your help. Help me with my recovery today. The second thing is prayer in the evening. These are super simple, but it takes intentionality, right? We often go to bed really quick and forget to pray, forget to do whatever, but make it a habit, just like brushing your teeth, just like, combing your hair, whatever it is. Make it a habit of just 30 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever it is that you choose. Take a minute to pray and thank God at the end of your day, for sobriety, for his help for you, getting you through the day. So number 1, prayer in the morning. And I would encourage you, write these down, because I'm going to ask you how you're doing on these whenever I talk to you. So prayer in the morning, prayer in the evening. Number 3 is also fairly simple, but it takes some intentionality, and that is read or listen to some recovery material, something that helps to, we're trying to rewire our brain and begin to think new thoughts. And so when I think about reading or listening to recovery material, it helps us to reshape our thinking and rewire our brain in a healthy direction. And so I want to encourage you, listen to, whether it's Patrick Carnes' audiobook, those are great. I would say, and read through that. He's got I would say, The Gentle Path Through the 12 Steps. If you don't have that, grab that book. It is a workbook. Dive into whatever content I'm sharing. This would count as listening to recovery material, right? You're engaging some new thoughts around recovery, and it's helping you to think about your recovery and focus on it. If somebody wants to lose weight, you got to think about, wow, what is it going to look like to lose weight? Who am I listening to? I'm going to listen to somebody who's going to teach me how to lose weight, right? If I want to make progress in my recovery, I need to be pumping some recovery fuel into my journey. And so listening to recovery material, reading recovery material, doesn't have to be a lot. 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, awesome. Some people have a long drive, they get an hour a day. Beautiful, I love it. The more the better, right? But something, be intentional about it. We're feeding our brain truth rather than letting it sit in lies. because the enemy, he's trying to speak to us, and he's trying to pull us away from the truth. So number four on the daily practices is groups. It's showing up, it's listening, it's sharing, it's community. Dive into a group. I love church groups. I love AA, NA, Al-Anon. If you've got a great Al-Anon chapter where you're at, those are powerful. And that can be really impactful, even if that's not, maybe you haven't noticed that you have a qualifier or whatever. If you have questions about it, let's talk about your group. Celebrate Recoveries are great groups, but I think having a group that is specific to addiction is helpful. It's powerful because other people that have a similar struggle, walking the same journey together, man, we become bloodstained allies. We become the best friends we wish we never had. But it's powerful because we're not in isolation anymore. And so I can unpack some more of that at another time, but showing up to a group at least once a week. Sometimes when people are in the beginning of stages of recovery, we say, dive into a group once a day. And a lot of people say, do 90 meetings in 90 days. Excellent. That's a great program if you can do that. But dive in and refocus your energy, refocus your thinking by doing these things. And number 5, is kind of the pinnacle. It's kind of the toughie. It kind of separates the men from the boys on this number 5, but it's powerful. And so I want to invite you to make a phone call to another man in our group. If you're not in our group yet, make a phone call to a guy in your church group. Make a phone call to a guy you know, a brother that you know, a friend. Check in on them. Hey man, how you doing? What's going on? Also share your heart. Man, I'm feeling sad today. Man, I'm feeling frustrated. Get a little bit vulnerable. Don't just talk weather and sports. Dive in a little deeper. And you'll find that when you dive in a little deeper, they'll dive in a little bit deeper too. And maybe it's a 5-minute conversation. Maybe you talk for an hour. It doesn't matter how long it is. What matters is that you reached out you cared about somebody else. You reached out and you connected. And that's powerful. And so it's powerful for that other guy, but it's also powerful for you. And so I want to encourage you, dive in on the phone calls. It's powerful. And oftentimes I can tell if a guy is getting ready to relapse or not by the number of phone calls he's made in the last week. I know it's true for me. If I'm having 2 or 3 phone calls in a week, my recovery is pretty weak. If I'm having 6, 7, 8, 9, my recovery's cooking along. I'm doing well. And so these things help us to build momentum. They help us to get out of isolation and to be honest with ourselves and the people that we're journeying with. So these are non-negotiables. If you do these 5 Ps daily, even imperfectly, you will build momentum and you will build strength. So addiction, we know, is built upon secrecy, shortcuts, and self-reliance. The 5 Ps replace those with connection, consistency, and surrender. And that's why I love them so much. So in closing, I just want to say I'm excited to be on this journey with you. And I want to encourage you. This is a journey of hope. This first week is about laying concrete. It might feel simple, but it's solid. And I want to invite you, commit to the 5 practices every day this week. Write them down, check them off. I'm going to tell them to you one more time really quick here. It's prayer in the morning, prayer in the evening. It's reading recovery material. It's going to a group. And it's, making phone calls. And so check them off. Check them off your list each day and be intentional about it. Let's talk about it. Be accountable in group with that. The final thought is just, you don't have to do this perfectly. Keep showing up. This is the start of something new, and it's something powerful. I'm excited to be on this journey with you, and I can't wait to see the transformation that happens for each of us. This isn't just about you. It's about the other dudes that are in this group. It's about me. It's about all of us journeying together. And so welcome. Let's do this thing. Yeah.